Mr. Bayless. Margaret Gwynn.
Councillors, submission is in part 2, page 5.
Have we ever done it like that before? These parts,
Oh, I know.
just the way it works. I know that. Right, let's go. Okay, 10 minutes. Mrs. Gwynn, good to see you here. If you wish us to ask you some questions, please allow us some time in your 10 minutes, and you can take your submission as read.
Don't worry, I won't take anything like that time, actually. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to my submission. I just want to expand one or two of the points I made. And the first one is water bottling. Since I wrote my submission, there have been further developments about water bottling, with several articles appearing in the press, and I understand the Regional Council continues to receive applications for water bottling consents. My concern centres around this determination that these have only minor environmental effects. I would dearly like to know who actually makes the decision about what is minor. But even more than that, I would like to know if the Regional Council at any point stops assessing consent applications as individual and starts assessing them as cumulative, because it seems to me this may well have more than a minor effect if you take them all together. So I don't know whether you want to respond to that now or just later.
Well, we can capture that in the response. Someone will write that down.
Okay, fine. I know that there's a detailed study of the Heritonga aquifer taking place at the moment. I suggest it would be very good public relations if, as soon as this is completed, a public meeting was held, because I think that would help to allay public concern about what's going on. Mrs. Scott, in her article in Hawke's Bay Today, stated that other regional councils are also receiving applications to bottle water and export it. And so I ask that the Hawke's Bay Regional Council work with these other councils to make a joint representation to the government about an urgent need for a change in legislation, so that the different uses of water, excuse me, so the different uses of water can be prioritised, so that local needs can be put ahead of foreign ones, foreign companies, and non-polluting activities can be put ahead of polluting ones. So I ask for this joint representation from regional councils, if you would work with the other regional councils to make a representation to government to change the legislation. Moving on to the Ruataniwha Dam, I continue to oppose that on economic grounds. I don't think it's viable, and it's very questionable on environmental grounds. And given the difficulties this scheme has run into, I'm surprised the Regional Council is even considering a scheme on the Nararoro. Surely the time has come to reinvestigate smaller scale water storage and dryland farming. With regard to the Ruataniwha Dam, though, I want to express my concern that the interview techniques that were revealed at the recent public meeting and subsequently described in greater detail in an article in the Dominion Post last week. And by interview techniques, I mean the questioning of applicants for positions at the Regional Council as to whether they saw the dam as viable or not, regardless of whether their work was to be in that area or not. I see this as unacceptable questioning. It's extremely unhealthy for an organisation to employ only people with one point of view, especially about a major project.
While it's not my role to correct you, Mrs. Gwynn, that's actually not quite correct. So there is a far more robust process.
I understand, though, that it has been admitted that this type of questioning was offered in interviews.
Okay, I'm not sure what that has to do with your submission, but please continue.
No? Okay. All I want to request is that this questioning is removed from interviews, because I think it leads to an unhealthy organisation. The final point I want to make concerns climate change. In the Big Six update on page 15 of our plan, there's a statement. no specific initiatives are proposed for reducing carbon and regional emissions. Now, it's not enough just to react to climate change, to extreme weather events and rising sea levels and rising temperatures. This is actually the gravest issue facing human beings since our civilizations began, and we have to find ways to act. I want to acknowledge that this council has made strenuous efforts to reactivate the Gisborne-Napier rail system, and I really commend your persistence and thank you for it, because I think the use of trucks, reducing the use of trucks, would be a very valuable contribution to reducing our consumption of fossil fuels. Another area you could look at is extensive tree planting on hill country that's liable to erosion and on less productive farmland. Now, the present government has allowed the price of carbon to fall so that tree planting is not an attractive economic option. I hope that the present consultation on climate change will change that situation, but it may not. Hopefully, if it does not change and carbon price remains as it is, then I think we really need the regional councils to unite and initiate schemes to help farmers to plant trees. So I ask you please to explore that possibility. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions? Excuse me. Councillor Scott.
Mrs. Gwynn, did you take part in the consultation on water allocation in 2006 towards a sustainable water future?
Crumbs.
And are you aware of what the outcome of that particular, because that was everything that you're asking here about looking at
Right.
allocation on priorities, etc., was in that document.
And what's happened since?
It was in the too hard basket and status quo remained.
Right.
I think you might have been part of that, weren't you?
I'm afraid I can't remember back that far. Sorry.
Other questions? Councillor Graham.
Firstly, thanks for your. I think it's really important that people like yourself come along and just tell us what you're thinking, like you did, openly and honestly. And we may not all agree with all the things around the table, but you told us the way you think of it, and that's just tremendous. And regard water storage, would you be opposed to a water storage system on the headwaters of the Nararora that was just a storage system that stored the water in the winter and released it in the summer into
Which
the river?
means another dam, I take it.
Yeah, a dam. Well,
Yeah.
water storage is a dam, yeah.
Yeah.
Would
I can't comment. I don't know the details of the scheme. I'm just concerned that, considering the
There's no
difficulties you're
scheme.
having with one scheme, I'm surprised you want to start
I'm
another.
just in principle.
In principle, I probably am opposed to any large dam, actually. I just think that they put too much strain on the land.
Further questions?
Last one around the planting of trees. The carbon price, of course, is a market-driven.
Yes, but it has
So
been
that-
affected by the government's tendency to buy international reduction
Yeah.
emission.
Could I ask
units.
if you haven't got that as because we have consulted on this before and you have submitted on it before, that we actually fund that planting out of rates?
Yes, I think if the carbon price remains hopeless, now I think what I'm asking is that assistance should be given to farmers, really. I mean, QE2 does a lot, and I don't know how much the Regional Council does to help farmers actually plant trees in non-productive areas. But that seems to me a way of, and I suppose assistance to farmers does ultimately come out of rates, does it? Yeah, okay.
No further questions. Thank you, Mrs. Gwynn,
Right.
for your submission presentation, and we will be back to you in due course, and we will answer some of your particular questions there.
Thank
So, thank you. Okay, who have we got next? Two Crafts, which is Rhonda Lidgard. which is submission number 120. Good morning. So very quick explanation. Good morning, welcome. I think we're still morning, yeah, we are. 10 minutes, and if you wish us to ask you questions, please allow us some time in your presentation, but the time is yours to do.
I'd love you to ask questions, it'll come.
And your submission obviously is taken as read, so.
Yeah, thanks. I think I might have got a bit mixed up on what the expectation was for me to come and talk to my submission. I run a little craft shop. It's called Two Crafts, and I'm the manager, and I lease from the Waiheke Trust. It's the village up there, the Waiheke Arts and Crafts Village. So I manage the shop up there. And when I came along to the meeting we had together, I saw a big piece of culture missing in the whole. And I know that that's got nothing to do with the council. It's actually our own fault that we're not out there pushing our culture more and getting the culture out there for tourism. In the shop at the moment, I have 24 art and crafters who display their taonga in the shop. It gives the crafters a place to bring out their talents and show their talents, of course, and their works. In the last 2 months, I've been taking a few stats on visitors through our area, and just in May, the month of May, I had 214 people through. The interest is high on what we do with flax, how we work and treat the flax. So I sort of see a big opening there to enhance that side of the craft shop and just sharing the knowledge that we have ourselves and passing it on to others. I do demonstrations and workshops and that sort of thing by arrangement, or just as people come in if they're wandering and talk, and that's where I'm making all these connections with people, showcasing a lot of flax work and people get a chance to have a go at making a flower or seeing what we do with flax and taking away a small sample of what they've made, if time arranges, of course. So, like I say, I sort of wasn't quite sure what you were expecting from me, and never sort of being in this position before, I thought I'd come along and put it out there anyway. So
And
if
thank
there's
you for that. So questions, Councillor Hewitt?
I do have a question. And thank you for coming and presenting to us. When I was reading it, I thought, I like the sound of that. So I Googled to find out where you were, and I couldn't find you. So,
right.
So I just wanted to confirm, you're near the golf course, are you?
Yes, straight across the road.
Well,
It actually was the old dairy milk factory. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. No.
Thank you very much for that, and we've got another submission from Pamela Hollows.
Yes.
Right. So I'm just really wanting to know how the two tied together, because it's looking at actually telling that whole story.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a separate submission when we get onto that.
But it's actually Dennis O'Reilly who's going to talk to that. We
Is
had
it?
the name
Yeah.
change because he takes the tours on Otara Pa. He's a
Yeah.
trustee of
So
the
this is Waiheke Marae.
Waiheke
No.
Art Village.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
is it connected with the?
No, the Mariah's down the road,
Yeah.
but it
There
is,
is a relationship.
does come under
It
the
is- It is
umbrella.
all Maori land.
Yeah.
Well, the whole milk
Yeah.
factory was
Yeah.
Maori land, but it was bought privately.
Mm.
But it's, there's that strong relationship. But can I just mention something that Rhonda didn't mention, because she often talks.
Rhonda has often asked me about signage. Why can't the councils arrange better signage? Like, for instance, there's nothing in Taradale saying that the Waiheke Arts Village is just just around the corner basically, and also on Links Road, when you get to the intersection on the State Highway 50. There's nothing saying the Arts Village is just a few metres up the road, and I've heard people say when they've gone on Links Road to that road that they thought it was miles away. And we'd like to see better signage. And it's also confusing because when I ring up to get any work done out there, I go to the Hastings District Council, I get told it's in Napier, the Napier say it's Hastings. So there's a real lack of coordination, and we had a big question about the cycle track out there. Just a few months ago, someone was hit from a car pulling out of our driveway after a flax weaving class. Was it flax weaving? Candle making. We have quite a few courses out there. So I rang the councils about signage, is it a cycle track? Is it a walkway? Because a family had moved out that area. The mum and dad biked into town to see if their kids could bike to school, and then biked back on what they thought was a cycleway because there was a sign on it, and they got hit by a car pulling out. It's not actually a cycleway, and trying to find who was responsible was a really difficult task for me. I don't know what's happened. All I know is that now there's a great big wide path being put all the way along that strip. But I
Could I
don't know.
suggest that we have this conversation outside the submission process, because, you know, this is your particular time on your submission, and perhaps we can talk about that one.
Well, I guess it's who is responsible for those things as a question for the submission, really.
NZTA for the State Highway, Hastings District Council for their local road.
And signage?
Yeah.
Those,
Go to
same.
And,
Yep.
and apply.
Can I ask Ms Lidgard a question? You say you support the tourism, increasing the contribution. How would that affect you?
I'd pay like everybody else.
No, but not so much the paying, but could you see more benefit? Explain some of the benefits of the increase in funding.
Well, I suppose more advertising and that sort of thing. Getting known is really the biggie for me, because we're that bit out of the way. We do bounce off the chocolate factory and that sort of thing. The other thing that works in our favour is the GPSs still send Wellington people around our way instead of straight down the highway. We won't go there, so that works for me. Yeah, yeah. But it's really being that little bit out of the way that I think the tourism.
Increased funding would help.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for your
Councillor Pye.
submission, Rhonda. Yeah.
Thank you.
You said that in May of this year you had 214 people that came. Do you take any stats to find out whether they're
I've just started.
outside visitors or whether they're locals or whether they're international visitors?
Yeah.
Do you have any? Can you give us a bit of an idea there?
I can send them in to you. I've only just collated them just to sort of bring a few here. Yesterday Sunday I had a bus tour through of 27 people, and that was from the farmers community, and they were breeders of dextral cows, and they held their AGM here on the Friday, and that was their day to sort of, they go out and visit and that sort of thing. And they were from all over the North Island only. I had a group, Absolute Tours does visit the craft shop, and they bring all nationalities. Yeah, so there is a variety of nationalities that come through, multiculture.
Thank you. No other questions? Thank you very much for your submission
Thank
and your
you.
presentation, and we will be in touch in due course. Thank you. Okay, now let's, we've used up our deliberation time before morning tea, so let's now go to Mr. Gerard Payne. Yeah, now we're back on time again, which is submission number 80. Oh, and there's a handwritten accompaniment here.
And before the clock starts, on this agenda it says that I'm point